Some people will choose to have the entertainment value of a fight rather than the educational value of a dialogue.
Well, I
So
think that's
that's
probably
what,
the
yeah,
problem with most of these spaces, because when you look at the likes, it's the drama, it's the
yeah,
that get the likes, so then it's reinforced. But when you're having dialogue like this, I think we say we want solutions, but it's not necessarily solution based in the sense that you have two ideologies or two ideas, and then it's about, well, I want my idea to be the right one,
yeah,
and my idea is the only right one. This is the way we all should go. And I think that is part of the problem, because when we look at the human experience, it's varied. So you can talk, Trigger Mike, for your experience and what works in your household,
hmm,
and that's a reflection of a specific group of men who want to be that type of man. But then you could probably go to Trill Show, and he
hmm,
talks about his experience with his wife and how his household is, which doesn't necessarily look like yours, but it works for him. And I
hmm,
think our problem is that we get in these spaces and try to generalize and say this is the way that everybody needs to do it and it's going to work. And
yeah,
it just doesn't, because my marriage doesn't look like your marriage or Marcus's marriage, right? But all of our marriages are working. Like, I'm almost 20 years in. You're in your double digits. You're in your double digits, right? So it's working. It's just not working the same way. And that's why I think it's about just finding the one that is for you.
hmm,
I think that, so I hear what you're saying, Mistaken, but I think
Mhm.
that the a bit of the drama is important for the intellectual part too, right? I think sometimes when we get too immersed in like echo chambers, we get caught in a bubble and our thinking doesn't expand. So what I really like about Trigger Mike show is, to contradict AP a little bit, it does get a little hostile from time to time. It does. It's controlled hostility because Trigger Mike takes the control back from the conversation and is masterful at like steering the conversation. But there is some chaos that forces you to ask yourself questions or criticize your own perspective in a way that you might not be challenged otherwise, right?
But
And I
that's
think,
the question. Are people doing that, or they're watching to be entertained? There's a difference.
so I'll say this, right? Because whether I'm commenting or not, because I can be sometimes pretty active in his chat. I am usually listening on a pretty regular basis, and I have started to see a few of the regulars that show up start to very just gently shift their mindsets just a little bit. You're not going to change the world in a day. A lot of the people who are listening in are full grown adults, right? And so they have a very set way of thinking and of looking at the world and analyzing the world. It's going to be a very slow progression, and if we don't have enough patience for people to build a new perspective over time, I think we're just going to lose a lot of the people in the community. I think it's going to take Trigger Mike having his show a year, 2 years, 5 years to
hmm,
see real progression, right? And I think we need to be fair to the people that we're trying to communicate with and trying to have grow, to give them that amount of time in order to like see real change.
I
and
think I think that's well. I don't think we disagree at all. At, at all. But I don't see necessarily a disagreement, even if it's a little heated, as the chaos that we see on other panels with the constant. I'm just going to let this fight happen. Mike, TM doesn't allow that to happen. It's okay. You got it out. You got it out, DTM, and you got
yeah,
it out. Um, PhD, whatever, I forget her name. Now,
Yeah, PhD.
you'll pull a question from their conversation and then give it to the entire panel. It's insane to watch, because you will basically pause the show, interject, and you'll say, okay, I'm going off topic. I had this question, but y'all brought something else to mind. And it was strictly from the conversation that they were having, and you allow it to open up to the entire panel. And I think there's beauty in that. I'm
yeah.
like, okay,
I
like
think
I really think it's awesome.
I think I'm tracking with you, and The one thing that's interesting, and this is going to sound very simpish. This is how you keep the integrity. So I'm actually going to create. I didn't even tell him this. I started working on it. I'm gonna create like rules of engagement for shows, right? For all the P shows, right? This is I don't know what color code we're gonna give to Sheet Critique, but we want it to stay just like this. This energy is good, right? Then you're gonna give a color code to Thursday. Then we'll give a color code to the Trigger Mike show. Like, if you're gonna come on here, this is how it can get. But have you noticed that you have to protect the women a little bit and let them get their point across, even if it's toxic? Because if you don't protect that, that's when it becomes that echo chamber and it'll turn into. So I really gauge the success of the show by how many women aren't afraid to come up, right? So that's why I even let Anna up. And no, you know what I'm saying? And the more I see them talk, and I know, like, you could see the dudes like, oh, I'm about to get her ass. I'm like, let her finish, because even the toxic stuff, you need to hear it. You need to hear it. Like, I want to know who's racist. I want to know who wants you to delete black children. I want to know all this stuff. I don't hide from these opinions. So as long as we protect the integrity based on people talking, right, and then share your opinion back, I think we can keep the integrity of the show going. Go ahead.
Yeah, I really enjoy this show too, Trigger Mike. My boy, what's the CLDMP? He be coming in.
Yeah.
He
consistent, bro. He consistent, bro.
But one question I have for the panel, and I want the chat to give me a definition of this. What is the definition of simp? Because I see the way people use it.
Urban Dictionary defined it perfect.
You say what?
I've read it off of. No, yeah.
Because I think
Urban
everybody
Dictionary
chat use it, so it'll be like. Because to my understanding, I thought it was a man that does things for women who he has sexual attraction to that will never reciprocate that attraction.
All right. The Urban Dictionary says it is when a male is overly submissive to a female and gains nothing from it. So that's the same thing.
So, okay. Definitions are important and great, but context is also important and great, right? There is the definition of what a simp is, but simp is also used to reprimand men that are not what some men think is on code, right? So it used to be, right, calling men gay. Like if you were not on code, they would call you gay or whatever, insert whatever slur that is synonymous to that, right? Yeah. That used to be the thing that used to get men to fall in line. Now it's being called a simp. Now, if they call you a simp, they're signaling you're not on code, and we're going to shame you for not being on code. And so now you have to be on code. So yes, there's the definition of what a simp is. And then there's also the way that the term is applied towards people.